Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies open.
I don't know why I keep giving alien street food a chance. It's always such a gamble.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen.
Hello and welcome to another Hailing Frequencies Open podcast where we are trekking through the past and future of Star Trek. As always, I'm your host, Mike Jones, and joining me this week in the virtual studio are my co-host, Damien and Lanita. Say hi, guys.
Hi, Mike.
You came in hot, Mike. You're like, and we're here.
Oh, and here we are. I wasn't ready to talk yet. I don't know.
There was a pause so that I can see where to edit it.
And then you came in hot, like today.
Well,
hot takes.
That's the topic. Hot takes. So I think that this came up because in a recent episode, I think Lanita let it slip that she does not care for the character Tasha Yar.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't like a let it slip. I said it with my whole chest.
Gosh.
Damien was like, "Oh, controversial opinion," or you know.
I know. Which makes me think that she's like full of these things. So I told her that I would bring a fire extinguisher for her flame throwing. Which probably now we're all gonna be let down. She's gonna have all these like vanilla ho hum opinions, probably, but you know.
I'll have more opinions about your opinions than my own opinions. So that's what makes it fun.
All right, well, here we go then.
You're like, hot take, the Enterprise is fast. No, I don't know.
I never liked the Enterprise anyway.
It's funny. I sat down. I was like, oh, I don't know. I'll come up with a couple of these. Yeah, I have a list of like 9. So.
Oh my God. Ooh. All right, great. Because my list is short.
It's way too much.
No, it's not. It's perfect.
Some of these are not necessarily. I mean, here's the problem: the fan base is so wide that there are a large contingent of people who will agree with everything we say, because there's also a large contingent of people who will disagree with everything we say.
Totally.
So you know.
Yeah,
that being said,
I can't imagine that I actually have any real original ideas here. I think mine are pretty general.
Yeah, sure.
Not original ideas. It's just about you defending the idea that you have.
Exactly.
She's already trying to put me on the defensive here. We haven't even got a single idea out, and she's telling me I need to defend myself.
It's like a courtroom episode.
Oh my gosh.
It's the debate club.
She's the district attorney.
I mean, hold on, just for 2.5, have we watched the most recent episode of Strange New Worlds?
Yes, I'm fully caught up. Yes.
No, I'm not caught up.
Okay.
Because I was traveling last week.
Okay. Then the next time we speak, we will. There's a reason that I paused in this courtroom moment, because. Oh no, not the most recent. The one before the most recent.
What La'an and Kirk in the.
I haven't seen it. I'm 2 weeks behind. I'm so terrible.
No. The one with what's her?
This is how Rolaren got spoiled for me.
Oh,
traveling on vacation. Yeah,
you have to keep up.
You have to keep up. No, with number 1, and her Andarian,
yes,
Andalusia. Illyrian. Thank you. I'm thinking
Illyrian.
Of
the trial episode.
Yes. Did you watch the trial episode?
Yes.
Okay. So hence why it came into my head that you're on trial, because I liked that lawyer lady. She was great.
Oh
yeah,
I want her to defend me against something.
I liked her from the moment she came on screen. I was like,
that actress grew up watching TNG as like a kid and was like, yes, she's one of us.
That is why she was.
One of us. Yeah, she could have a whole spinoff.
I feel like we see her again. Maybe
legal
not this
drama
season,
spinoff.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. That that's my weaving down the road of we weren't going there, but it just made me think of it.
Okay, I will start with a hot take.
Yes.
Hot take: Wesley Crusher should not have been a member of the bridge crew.
Is that a hot take?
See, I said some of these might not be.
He's waiting. He's waiting and gradually. Listen,
I am waiting
I
gradually.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. Now, I was scolded the last time I made a Wesley comment that was at all negative by Aaron. If you're listening, let's have lunch. But still, you scolded me because this is a Wesley Crusher stan podcast, she said. So
Oh,
I love Wesley
well,
Crusher. The problem isn't that the character exists.
it's that he wasn't ready for it.
He-
They just
it
threw
just-
him on there.
Right. It's like, yeah, he's a really smart kid. He's a wunderkind or whatever.
mhm.
But
for him.
does that really mean that he should get priority to like pilot the ship over the people who've actually done the training and like put in the
Gone to
hours?
school?
Right.
Well, and I'm gonna say this too. In all of the future Treks that we get now, starting I'm gonna say with like Tom Paris,
Mhm.
they put emphasis on the skill of being like a hot shot pilot, right? So you
Yes,
get, and then
true.
you get Detmer in Discovery.
Yeah.
Now you get
Yeah.
Ortegas.
Ortega. Yes, Ortega.
Uh-huh.
Catch up. Mike,
Yeah.
you've got to catch up. You
I know
to
I've got to catch up.
And
well,
I
it's
watched
funny.
3 in a row.
The most recent one, it must be an Ortega's heavy episode, because in Canada it just is on TV, like it's on like CTV, like it's
Yeah,
not on Paramount Plus.
They air it on like
So-
cable.
We were like channel surfing and I was like, oh my god, this is an episode I haven't seen before, and I was like so tempted to just keep watching, but it was like the middle of the episode and I was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not gonna do this.
You
Uh,
gotta start from the beginning. It is it's good.
All right, and then I'm going to say this to you, Lenita. This is spoiler free. Is that I feel like this was not our Ortegas episode, though. I feel like this was like whetting our appetite to fake us out to be like
This
this
is gonna
is
move boosh.
because
this is gonna
we
lose boosh to
Moose Boosh. Because last season we were like, she's a great character. We didn't get an episode,
Mhm.
and then this is like a solid B story we get from her.
Solid episode.
But I
Okay.
feel like
I
it's
mean, solid.
I think it's a fake out. I feel like there's more coming. That's my
Good.
They're doing so good. I'm just gonna tell you that they're doing great. They're doing great.
This is dangerous territory. We need to.
That's all.
we-
No,
I
but
know,
no,
I
no,
know,
no.
I know,
I-
I
we
know.
can't
I don't
not
spoil
spoil this
anything.
for Mike in the middle of it.
Right.
Oh no, no,
No.
no, no.
I don't trust myself.
Oh, well, I know how to hold water. Okay, now
Um,
listen. How many people? So if Erin were here, she would be defending Wesley Crusher with her whole
Maybe.
heart.
I feel like Wesley Crusher. I feel like they figured out how to do Wesley Crusher with Jake Sisko, if that makes sense. By having like, yes, Jake Sisko is like a normal kid, but like
Mm.
his like role in the story was like kind of sort of correct for like a teenager in Star Trek, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like he was maybe not in every episode,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have had a problem with them using Wesley in this way if he were maybe at least an actual cadet, like in his final year of the academy or something,
Yeah.
like on the ship.
Yeah.
Then I would have been really fine with it. But it's silly enough that they make fun of it in Galaxy Quest, with I don't remember the actor's name.
Yes.
But he was on the show when he was a kid, and he made up how to steer the ship and everything. And it's like that is Wesley Crusher. They're talking about Will Wheaton right there. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a little Lost in Space. It's like they wanted a
yeah.
Will Robinson.
They wanted a kid that the younger audience could watch the events through his perspective. I think that was the aim.
And they promoted Will Wheaton like that. I mean, I remember him on Nickelodeon doing a like behind the scenes tour
Mhm.
of the bridge, and he was in, Teen Beat magazine and everything. They really were trying to pull in the younger audience with him. And maybe it worked. Maybe little young gay Mike Jones loved Will Wheaton. But all that being said,
He didn't. Need to
he
be
doesn't
on
have
board.
his driver's license yet or his learner's
No,
permit. He shouldn't be
no.
piloting the ship. That's all I'm
No.
saying.
and not as like the main pilot. No, it should be
Right.
like you can be an apprentice. Like it's like in tattooing, you gotta apprentice for a couple of years before we're gonna let you go full throttle on somebody's flesh. Like, what are we doing?
Okay. I think
I like
we're
that.
all in agreement on this one.
You know,
Absolutely.
in fact, when there's an episode in the first season where someone says, "Shut up, Wesley," right?
Mhm.
And then like Beverly gets mad, and then at a certain point later she says, "Shut up, Wesley," herself, right? That's like kind of the joke in the episode.
Right.
I definitely got a button, like a pin, at a Star
That said,
Trek
"Shut up."
convention. Shut up,
That
Wesley.
"Shut up,
Yes.
Wesley."
Oh,
And
yeah.
my like 9-year-old self was for sure wearing it around in my jean jacket. And
Oh.
That's
They
adorable,
just-
and I love it.
They just
All
could have done something else with that character that made him more likable. It's, you know,
It was because he was a know-it-all, right? Like, you can be smart, but you don't have to be sort of bratty about it. Like, it was always,
yeah.
he was never sort of humble with his smartness. It was like, my mom is the doctor. I can do what I
Yeah.
want. I'm the only kid on this ship. Look at me, pilot. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
There wasn't
You know?
enough hubris, he wasn't relatable enough.
And
the way
also,
it
at
was
no
written.
point do we see him learning how to fly the ship. He just
That's
sits down
true.
there and knows how to do it, right?
He's a
Right.
genius.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Who's next? Damien.
I'll go. While I enjoy the movies just fine when I go to see them, I don't feel that for me, the Kelvin universe is Star Trek at all.
I think a lot of people agree with that.
I don't have a whole lot of like backup for this. This is just like in my heart of hearts. I go see it. It's fun. It's fun to watch. When I saw the first one, I said, "Oh, this guy does a great Bones," and this Chris Pine was very charismatic and has I don't know who else they could have gotten that would have done a better Kirk in a movie.
Yeah.
And
What about it makes it not Star Trek to you?
I don't know what it is, and and part of it I think, and I'm going to contradict myself a lot here, is that I just think Star Trek is better in TV, and
sure.
that it gives you time to get to know more of these characters. There's a lot of like a lot of our favorite characters are barely in the Next Generation movies, even the good movies.
Yeah.
Gates McFadden, where was she even in those movies? Hard to tell.
Right.
So I think that it, and so much of I think that what Star Trek is to me is these friendships and relationships, and Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto had great Kirk and Spock chemistry, but it just it was very smart of them to put these movies in an alternate timeline so they didn't have to worry about canon, like support all the choices. But you know what? When there's all this stuff about the fourth Kelvin movie coming out,
Right. Or not coming
I'm
out.
excited, but I'm not like I won't be like awake with anticipation the night before going to see it.
Sure.
Like
You won't put on your new fresh jammies and wake up in the morning and be like, "It's time to go see Star Trek."
Yeah, no, I
Yay."
won't. And when Discovery first came out and everybody was like speculating as to what that would be, and that because it was sort of like the more recent iteration of Star Trek, there was a lot of speculation that would be in the Kelvin universe instead of in the Prime universe. And
Right.
I was suddenly a lot more interested when I found out that it was going to be in the Prime universe. And I think a lot of it too is like, I'm not a stickler for canon. I'm not here to, when were the eugenic wars? We got this came up like you're gonna get into this.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
You're gonna get
I've
into
already
this.
heard.
And I don't care. I don't. They made a retcon. They changed it. Like I don't care.
Yeah. Not a big deal.
But there is like a wealth of world building and story building and character history that we get in canon, and there are parts of it that are important to fans because we have invested like irrational amounts of time in consuming this stuff, and that and that as much as I can be like, all right, like they made a pretty smart move in ditching that so they could have their own movies, doesn't make me really care about it.
I think part of the problem with the first Kelvin movie is they tried to start them out really young and then like fast forward in a way to get them all in the right place and in the right chairs, which was really awkward, especially with Kirk. I mean, it makes no sense how he goes from like, cadet to suddenly in command of the ship. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But so it's like they leaned on the history that we knew about the characters, but didn't actually give those characters that history. They didn't support that. So it's like it didn't have strong legs. The best of those three films, I think, is the second one. In the third one.
I was gonna say that is an unpopular.
That is a hot take, right? Is the third one because it's the most like they're already on the journey, they're on their mission, and something happens. You see them confidently doing their jobs, and then of course things derail. But they're just finding their feet in those first two movies in a way that I don't know. I liked those movies a little bit more when it was the only Star Trek we had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But now that we have so much more, it pales in comparison. Like, I don't crave going back and rewatching those movies. I would rather go back and watch Discovery or Picard,
And I don't know how much you followed the whole sort of like they announced that there would be a fourth movie, and then everyone was like, "What? I had no idea," and then it was just suddenly gone. And
right?
Did you watch that with any kind of emotional investment? Did you? Were you a little heartbroken when that went away, or were you like, maybe they'll do a Picard movie? They won't, but
maybe, who knows? But no. I was not emotionally. I didn't really ride that roller coaster. I watched it.
Yeah.
From the ground, eating my popcorn. Look at that roller coaster.
That's hilarious. I thought it was really shiny, right? Like when they came out, they tried to change the look. I mean, I get it. Of the times, like it's not our TV, it's not like it's film, it's different, but it was very like, if you look at it now, like it spoke to the time, but it was still really shiny based on what we had previously seen, like glossy and sort of, look, trying to make Star Trek cool versus it's already cool. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to gloss it up. It's perfect the way it is. So it can go. I do have to rewatch them though to do my whole finishing of my rewatch, my first watch. Second watch, I guess, of some of those movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have more on it.
Yeah, same. I'm like, I don't need to revisit that universe. I'm okay with it.
It's a nice little trilogy that can sit on a shelf.
Weird hot take. Sort of a throwback to our hair episode. I was thinking about like women and the fact that to make women strong, they gave them short haircuts, right? But they were sort of like ambiguous in their sexuality. Like Tasha Yar, straight up thought she was just a stone cold butch dyke.
Right.
Kira Nerys, once they gave her an actual haircut, was like, you're a lesbian. Even Burnham, like, sure, I was like, oh, here we go. Yes. Like, it's like short hair denotes masculinity, but also like you could be a lesbian. Everybody else had long hair. Troy, 7 of 9, even though it's wrapped back in a bun, when it comes down, it's like femininity is, I have long, luscious hair.
Right.
That's another reason Tasha Yar, she was a lesbian and she used data to figure out
oh my god.
Oh, I don't like her. I don't like her. Cass, that hair, and like they were like, think about the solid characters that not the players of the week, right?
Right.
Not the alien, but just our characters. It was like, oh, how can we show strength and sort of fruitiness?
Yeah.
Short hair.
There's that episode of Voyager where I think it's like an alternative. The doctor wakes up in the distant future, and they have this alternative history. But Janeway is like really cruel. It's almost like Mirror Universe Janeway, and she totally has like a crop top haircut.
Like make them butch.
Right.
What? That was a weird thing that popped into my head. I was like, oh, there you go. One
Short
hot
hair.
take from me. Short hair.
Short hair don't care.
All right, Mike Jones, what you got on your long list?
Okay, I'm this next one is about costuming. Speaking of, like, we did our hair episode, we did a costuming episode. I've said some of these things before, but I think that a large contingency of Star Trek fans would disagree that I think there should not have been any cat suits. Counselor Troy, Seven of Nine, Sub-Commander T'Pol should have been in uniforms like everyone else.
So I strongly agree with you. You know what? One character lightly changed my mind.
Yeah.
You do know, don't you? Dr. Culber in Discovery. When I saw him in his white cat suit, I said, "Oh, they have yes." I have come back to this, and it's partly because they're all in cat suits in that show, but his is white.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like wearing a white bikini to the beach. It's like,
it's perfectly white. It's
It is
not. It is crispy snow white.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like a Clorox commercial white.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clorox that they put a little something extra in to make like some borax on the side and a little bit of OxyClean, and said, "We're getting this sucker sparkly."
So when I saw that,
funny.
I was like, he is one in a proud tradition of sci-fi babes. And they finally have like expanded their thinking.
Well,
like suddenly this like queer child watching Star Trek felt seen by
that's
his
amazing.
big perky booty. But no, I think you're right. I think that I don't.
Well, I mean, why? Because you don't like that it makes them so apart that they don't get to have their own fashion fun, and that they should be as boring as the rest of all of the uniformed folks, like to show rank.
I think part of it for me is, part of it it's two parts in my brain. One, I think of Starfleet as a pseudo military organization, whether we want it to be or not. And it looks like Troy is a civilian. It looks like, I mean, Seven of Nine actually is a civilian. She doesn't really have a rank. So that one actually kind of makes sense, but like, it does it? Like, that suit was supposed to be like helping her skin cells regenerate or something. I don't know.
Did they ever say that, or was that just like sort of like built into the like
something
Bible
we made
canon?
up?
I've heard the same thing though.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. That sounds like something someone said sometime, that it's sort of like Serena Williams with the cat suit to help blood clots after she had a baby, like at the French Open. Like,
well, but the suit, sure, you can justify that way, but Jerry Ryan has described the bustier that she wore as the breast mound, because that like that wasn't all her. Like, there was a very built-in structure to give her that shape and the chest. And it's the other side of my brain is the production side, which is they were trying to get, a demographic of teenage and young straight men. Like, that's who they were appealing to. I mean, it's like obvious every time there's a new show, well, who's going to be the hottie in the cat suit,
Yep.
And I just find that kind of gross. The other side, now I'm on a third side of this point, and it was a separate hot take, but I'm going to include it here. I think, in the first episode of TNG, we see Troy in the scant, and then she moves to her cat suit. The scant should have stayed, and the scant should have been what it was supposed to be, that unisex uniform that you can see men wear and you can see women wear, and that kind of next evolution in a non-gendered clothing world that I think we're moving towards in reality. And Star Trek could have led the way on that.
I want to know, like, actually behind the scenes, what happened to the scant and why they stopped using it. What's that?
Legs. The fact that like you full on are seeing skin, right? Like think about the amount of skin that you don't see on the uniformed crew.
Right. But we always saw skin in the original series. Like, was it just that it wasn't flattering? Was it just that?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, you'd have to keep your legs perfectly toned. You'd have to make sure that like you always had lotion. Listen, I know that lotion isn't something that your particular demographic of people use often, but you'd have to.
I lotion up my whole body every day. I got some dry skin. I got the Nivea with aloe in the other room, and I use the expensive Kiehl's shit because it's free at my gym.
You're talking to gay
where I tone my legs.
See how I poke that bear? See how that.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, Damien, that made me so happy.
How dare you?
I mean, this way it's sort of like, you know, you can use skin in a different way. Like if you're always seeing her legs or always seeing her body in that way, then there's no like sexing her up. Like even though the bodysuit is sort of sexy, you know, it is, but showing skin at the end of the day is the universal sexier.
That's
idea.
true.
I actually would have found that it made more sense to see her in a uniform, even if it was the scant, like on the bridge. And then, because, you know, in theory, she's also a practicing therapist, we see sometimes, right?
Yeah,
sure.
So that maybe she's like tits out when she is, right? I mean,
but then she'd have to change so many times a day. She's coming to the bridge, like she just comes there when she wants. So it's like, oh, I gotta go, put on my scant. I gotta change out of this versus, you know, putting on your dress. It's like her putting on her dress blues every day.
I mean, maybe it was to make her seem more approachable as a therapist. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're stretching to kind of justify.
I don't know. I think her especially her season 1 look is very like my eyes are up here, kind of, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then she gets more and more cleavage. She has that like blue outfit with the like built-in.
Oh, the asymmetrical.
Thing.
This is like a kind of, it's like a turquoise, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Depending on, you know, the adjustment on your television. But if the scant had stayed, I still like that it was a unisex costume. But the problem with men wearing it is you just brought out the thing about the legs. Women, especially in the original series, always had hose on or even tights with hose on. And men, like when we see men in scants, they don't have that. The only time we do in the dress uniform, which is essentially the scant pattern, the first time we see the dress uniform, because it's the same shirt but longer, it just doesn't have the black panels on the side.
It's like a tunic.
It's like a tunic. Picard is wearing basically black tights underneath.
Yeah.
So we do see him in tights then, but not hose. Because I mean, even I laugh, like that's just silly. But I don't know. I think that it would have been nice if Star Trek had led the way on some sort of, you know, gender expression when it comes to clothing, other than just falling into let's make the demographic happy. Yeah,
it could have pushed the envelope a little bit more, but then would we be talking about it where we are? Because if you push it too much, then it's like you get too many. I mean, this is back when I think if you wrote an angry letter to the network, there would be some actual repercussions versus now where it's like, pay the fine.
Sure.
I wrote so many angry letters to the network. Are you kidding me? Before the age of 11, I promise.
About Roe.
Read them. Yeah, and someone read them.
I wrote a letter because there were reruns. I was irate because I'd never watched a show that went into reruns before, and my mom was like, "You should write a letter." Instead of like explaining reruns to me, she like explained to me how to write an angry letter about it.
That's amazing.
It's parenting at its finest. I love that.
My mom was just like, "This will entertain me."
Right.
Mm-hmm. You
That's
do things so
amazing.
that you can be entertained. Okay.
Yep.
Keeping the scant. All right. Hot take.
All right.
Amy and Esther?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, my hot take is that for the most part, for a modern audience, TOS does not hold up.
Ooh. Ooh. That one hurts.
Listen, I know. Well, this is, oh, look at even Lenita's mad at me now. I know that you respect your heritage. This is where Star Trek came from. This was the
Mhm.
inventor of big ideas. This actually was the way that I discovered Star Trek. Like I came into it from that. And there are episodes that I can watch Journey to Babel 100 times. I love that episode. I love Mirror Mirror. There's a bunch of episodes that I love. You may remember we did a Halloween podcast about, tell me the name of the episode, Mike.
Cat's Paw.
Cat's Paw.
Paw. But they turned into weird little things at the end.
Yeah,
I had a
little pipe
They
cleaner
look like
puppets.
yeah, they kind of remind you of the little things in Ariel and the Little Mermaid after they don't pay Ursula.
Yes.
Mhm.
The little stalagmite things
Mhm.
hanging. Yeah.
Hmm. But for the most part, there's a limited number of, and now as I'm saying this, like I'm coming up with all of the episodes that I do love and can rewatch.
Of course.
But like City on the Edge of Forever, yes. But like there's all of these Balance of Terror. Oh gosh, now I'm like fighting against my own point here. But that I think what it is that like, because I really came to love Captain Kirk in the movies.
Mm.
Because so many, yes, like Kirk and Spock and Bones were such strong archetypal characters. But when it came down to it, they were characters who we never got like a character exploration of any of them in the original series. It was all plot based. And it was all some sort of like big sci-fi idea or like morality tale, which, was really interesting and groundbreaking for its time and all of that. But that I think as a modern audience, what we want is we want to feel, yes, we want all of those things. We want like a cool sci-fi idea. We want a morality tale, but we want it told through the lens of people that we care about. We want it to be grounded in character. And as much as like the characters were strong, that was secondary to the plot. So that the TNG characters who we really become attached to, like by season, and not even in the first 2 seasons, because it was still Gene Roddenberry writing it all. God rest his soul. We love him. But like his interest was not so much in character in the same way. And that, so what did and of course the original cast, when they sort of like start to modernize their stories, right? We get the motion picture, which is beautiful and interesting. It's got an emotional pull that I always enjoy, the emotional pull of characters who have years of history like re-encountering each other under changed circumstances, which is why I think we love season 3 of Picard so much.
Yeah.
But so we get a little bit of that in the motion picture, right? When like Bones has been drafted and he's pissed about it, like that, there's like moments of that, right? But we don't like really get Kirk as like a character with like pathos until Wrath of Khan, because he's in a fucking middle-age crisis.
Right.
He is like struggling with the fact that he's aging and he wants to be on the front lines, like having all the adventures, but he's old and he needs his glasses. And so that we don't really even like get to like go deep with these characters that we love until these later movies, and
it's interesting. The I have a couple things to say. If you watch The Cage, I feel like they started out with, of course, Captain Christopher Pike, played by Jeffrey Hunter, and he was a more emotionally developed character. We
Yes.
see
Yes.
him at a point where he is exhausted. He's
Mhm.
unhappy.
Regrets. He's got regrets.
He has
Mhm.
regrets. Things happened
Self-blame.
on this planet that he doesn't like, which I think
Rigel
we're
7.
we revisit soon. I don't know. Oh,
We got nothing on that.
But,
We got nothing on that.
but yeah, like he's at a moment of crisis, like Kirk in Star Trek 2, but it takes that long for Kirk to get there, when really we tried to start with that and it didn't.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, if the original series, if you compare it to Wagon Train, Wagon Train to the
Yes.
Stars, and if you compare Wagon Train to, say, Yellowstone today, like, television has changed so much. It's really hard for a modern audience to look back, to like a modern audience who's used to watching Game of Thrones,
Right.
Whatever, Succession, whatever. I haven't seen either of those shows, but to get them to go back and watch not a sitcom from the 60s, but a drama like Gunsmoke, Wagon
Great
Train.
show.
These are classic, really good shows, but it's a completely different era of television.
Well,
Things are
Absolutely.
written more as star vehicles, and there's this Roddenberry quote that I'm going to butcher, but it's basically like, the purpose of television is to sell dish soap or something like that. You know what I mean? Or sell toothpaste. Like,
Mhm.
Well, and if our point, if our aim wasn't to be lightly controversial here in this with our theme today, that I may have put it differently, that it's amazing how many episodes do hold up, because now I've been sort of naming my favorite episodes that actually do hold up really well. But
But overall,
I-
your point is made. Like, I get it. 'Cause
Yes.
I am. What do I constantly say? That they have written these characters as 360 degrees. Like,
Right.
they have a basement, a first floor, a second floor. There is an attic. There is a crawl space. There is a pantry. Like, there
What
are
is a
nooks
pantry?
and crannies. I love a pantry. There are nooks and crannies to these characters that
Yeah.
we haven't gotten previously. That's why we love the third, season of Picard, because we're getting the rest of the story of the people that we
Yeah.
haven't seen since they ended. And yeah, it's true. I was wondering where you were going with doesn't hold up, because I actually truly enjoy watching like retro TV. Like, I enjoy watching things that now maybe wouldn't pass muster. I was literally just talking about this the other day with my boss. Like, there are shows that you could not put on air now. Like, Nick at Night was where you started to see the things that I mean, I love Nick at Night, right?
Yes.
I grew up on Nick at Night, yeah,
Me too.
for sure.
But there's you can't do that anymore. Like, no Jeffersons, no All in the Family, no 227, which isn't controversial. Like, but like,
Even
Archie
Hogan's Heroes.
Heroes.
Can you imagine pitching
Dukes
a
of Hazzard.
comedy set in a Nazi concentration camp or a prison camp?
Well, and think
today?
about that, was on TV in the 60s, when it was like literally
Right.
like 20 years after it happened.
Right.
This is like making fun of things that
Mash.
happened in 2003.
Yeah,
Right.
like, oh, MASH. Well, okay,
Right.
we're okay. Archie Bunker sitting around like hating everyone. Like, we can't. That's not happening now. But there are many episodes of TOS that do hold up. I will. The Cage is truly like, I keep starting it and then I fall asleep because it's so nice here. But I mean, that is an intro. That is a great intro. That's what we need to do next episode. Intro episodes for people who don't watch it. What should you watch? The Cage is great. It's great, and it makes you love Pike. You see his origin,
Yes.
and I'm glad he's back.
Yes.
Oh, Damien.
Back and better than ever.
Well, and you know what episode I definitely, I mean, I say Journey to Babel, but also I think we learned, we were reminded last season on Stranger Worlds of what a classic episode Balance of Terror is, and how,
So
Yes.
good.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good. All right.
Lanita, do
Your
you have
turn.
one?
Yes, I do, but it's weird. I don't like. Okay, so remember, I have to Google because I can't remember the names of episodes. But remember the episode "Let That Be Your Last"
Battlefields.
battle. Mhm.
Yes.
And those aliens.
With the half black and half white,
Mm-hmm.
the moon
see
cookie
it.
face.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like they're basic. I mean, it is.
Yes.
It is a solar eclipse. I feel like they are basically Romulans and Vulcans. Like like the Romulans are the same. I know they're not, but they are. But they are, and they just divided off, and now they hate each other. Like you are the same people. Like
Yeah.
you just are. Like just get along. Like figure out where you diverged at the top. But if you put a Romulan and a Vulcan in the same room and nobody knew, like, oh, this one's got a slightly pointier eyebrow and this one's got a haircut that's slightly different, they'd be like, y'all cousins, what are we doing?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't really know if that's a controversial take, but I just was like, it's like that's the dumbest thing that y'all are fighting against each other. Like it made me think of the moon face cookie people. I was like, what are we doing? Y'all are the same.
I see.
Did you guys ever watch Dairy Girls on Netflix?
Yes.
No, but it's in my queue to watch.
It's good, but it's like, it's ridiculously funny, and it is
Yes.
super duper war torn. Like they're living, like their lives are like they're living in a war zone.
Yeah.
And there's like a fresh air kid that comes from Chernobyl, like a Ukrainian girl, and they're all like trying to like, make her like, because like, oh, clearly she's from a hellish place, right? Not realizing that they actually are, right?
Right.
And then this Ukrainian girl doesn't speak the whole episode. Finally, towards the end, she's like, you guys are the stupidest war. She's like, you're fighting one religion is just slightly different from the other.
Right.
Slightly.
It's so true. Yeah, I don't know how hot of a take that is, but I get what you're saying. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm thinking back to Balance of Terror, and that's the episode where we first are introduced to the Romulans, and we learn that they are, an offshoot of Vulcan blood, that they look just like the Vulcans. So I never thought about watching that episode through the guise of, well, isn't it stupid that you're fighting them if you're friends with the Vulcans? Aren't they the same? But yeah. Can't we all just get along?
Well, and I mean, and it goes back to like the Sunnis and the Shia,
Yes.
like
Right.
from where we're standing, a lot of people who don't understand Islam are like, aren't they just almost the same?
Right.
Or like the
someone has
Tutsis and
decided that
Hutus, like, yeah.
Someone has decided that, oh, we're better, so that is why. And it sucks. But like
Right.
I always feel like, well, y'all are cousins. Like, but also it's everybody wants to own everything. So I can completely understand why they're like, we have an empire, you have an empire, like our empire is better than your. So that's a whole other.
It's like that. Is that Dr. Seuss story where one group butters the bread on one side and the other group butters the bread on the other side, and they go to war over it,
Yeah.
So my hot take, my next one, kind of ties in with what Damien was saying about how in the movies we actually get character development for the original series characters. And I think that Spock's journey is great, but if they killed him, he should have stayed dead. We see him in the motion picture, and he's gone through this Kolinar thing that he stopped because he was feeling emotion and this connection to V'ger, and he has this whole thing and his friendship with Kirk, and then he comes out of that and is this better, more emotionally balanced person, and that allows him, I think, to make that ultimate sacrifice to save everyone on the ship at the end, which is an emotional action that I don't think he would have done had he gone through the Kolinar. And that's a lovely little end to his character.
Oh, by the way, I mean, that's a point that is worth digging into, that you think that his choice to save the ship was an emotional choice and not like a good of the many outweighs the good of the one. Like he presented it as a logical choice in the context of the story. Good of the many outweighs the good of the few, or the one.
Sure. But the logical thing might have been, I mean, I guess you could say that no one else could have held up to the radiation long enough to save the ship. But the logical thing would have been to send one of the expendable cadets in there to do it, and not sacrifice one of the most trained and valuable officers on the ship. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just cold logic that made him do it.
Yeah.
There was emotion there.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. But he should have stayed dead, because he comes back to do what? Talk to whales,
direct the next two movies.
Direct the next two, exactly.
You are that is rotten. That is rotten. You are a rotten individual.
What? It's true.
He's like, if I'm going to direct, then I have to be in them. He came back because then Kirk wouldn't have been a whole person. I mean, we've talked about it. The three of them make a whole person.
That's true.
And he would have been completely lost in his bravado and ego to do anything worth anything, because Spock's not there to give him actual information that he needs. You got to have somebody rope him in.
That might have been an interesting character study to see Kirk flounder without Spock.
I mean, is that what Star Trek theory? I mean, it's been a long time since I watched the third.
No, I mean, he's in deep mourning,
right.
And then he finds out that Spock's Katra is in, once he finds that out, then Spock really isn't gone, I don't know,
all right.
take.
So
it also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but there's also this trope of characters dying, and then you're like, well, they're not really dead. You know what I mean? They even make fun of that or honor that in Lower Decks, when a character dies and comes back, and then no one's allowed to ask him why he's back. Like, you don't talk about that,
Yep.
Because that happens over and over again. I mean, I think Scotty died like 3 times in the original series, and like he's just
did he really die, or was he just knocked out?
Well, I mean, there you go. Nomad kills him, and then he's like, this unit can be repaired, so he brings him back to life.
So it wasn't dead; he could be repaired. Go ahead. What else? What's number 2?
I know. Doesn't maybe he doesn't die, but doesn't Apollo zap him? But he might not be dead there too. But anyway, I'm just saying,
not on kill.
Okay, the other half of this hot take is that I'm glad Tasha Yar stayed dead. Yes. Because it's like they finally followed through with it. It's like we see a main character who's in the title sequence die in an episode, and we're not like, well, okay, how's she gonna come back? The
thing is that nobody can see. This is an audio medium, and nobody can see the fact that she's like cheering and applauding in my lower window here.
I didn't like her.
In poor taste. It's in poor taste.
What should I? But here's the thing. Here's the other reason is that, okay, ready? The relationship that we love between Worf and Rossi,
the
relationship that they were trying to have with Worf and Tasha Yar, like they're
when they tried to have that, how much trying they did on that, which I agree. What the trying amounted to in the episode where we already know she's gonna die. He at the beginning of the episode, he says, I'm betting on you in the ship's pool in the martial arts competition.
Oh, right.
So they didn't even they only did that when they knew they were already going to kill her.
There was no chemistry. He could not teach her. She was not a true warrior. He had to go.
No, he had more chemistry with what's her name, who dies in the episode Lower Decks, Insensito, who he's training.
Yeah.
He had more chemistry with her than he did with Tasha.
Okay, so on a similar note, how do you feel about the death and return of Data?
So Data deserves to live forever.
I was really happy.
Yes, you were. You wept. You wept just
Yeah.
like I did when
Yeah.
they opened those doors and Data was standing right there in front of you. I wept. It was joyous. I wept when he died. I was like, no, excuse me? He cannot.
Yeah.
That's not possible.
It's
It's also funny that these two character
You're
deaths like are
right.
parallel an actor's complicated relationship with their own role as
Oh,
an
absolutely.
iconic character in fandom. But
Mm.
surprise, surprise.
all right, my other follow up on this is how do you feel about the death and potential return of Captain Liam Shaw?
I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back.
I think he's coming back. We've
Do
heard
you?
in interviews with Terry Matalas says, I've got an idea and it's great.
Like in flashbacks, maybe, but I don't think in the current real world of it all. No. They
Yeah.
wrapped that up. They tied that bow too tight. I mean, that was a tight bow.
I could see or Prime Universe Lorca coming back somewhere before Liam Shaw coming
Oh yeah,
back
that is
somewhere.
not. There's no bow there. That is, he's out in the world somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, I think when they like tie it up, it's tied. Like
Right.
Data
I don't know.
was. I mean, was Data really tied? It was more like it was unfortunate.
Well, even at the very end,
They had
before
B4
starts
with his
whistling like the song, you know what I mean? So it's like wink, wink, like,
Right.
So yeah, I never really thought Data was dead. I think that's what it comes down to. I never really thought Data was dead.
See, you caught that, and I did. I thought it was. I was distraught. I was like, "What is wrong with you all? Like, that's like killing Odo. I mean, I
Wow.
guess founders can die. You know what I mean? But just
Right.
you don't give them a bucket, so then they just go to goo on the floor.
Well, I'm gonna jump to my next hot take. I
Yeah,
think
please.
Tuvix should have lived, and Tuvok and Neelix should have died. So we're talking about living and dying. You look
this
confused. Do
Yeah,
you
no, 'cause-
remember that
Go
episode?
ahead, tell me. No.
gosh.
What episode
It's
is it?
an
Tell me,
episode
tell me.
of Voyager where
Yeah.
there's a transporter accident that
Mhm.
of course, because it's a very dangerous piece of technology that takes Tuvok and Neelix and combines them into one
It sounds-
person
It sounds very familiar.
named Tuvix. And so it
Mhm.
was this third actor who
Yes. Mhm.
who plays them, and he's
Yes.
brilliant, and
Yes.
he takes the annoying parts away from Neelix and
Yes.
makes Tuvok more interesting, and he's this fully formed character who wants to live, and Janeway
Doesn't
makes
get
the hard
to.
decision to
Janeway kills him.
to kill Tuvix. I mean, she kills Tuvix to save Tuvok and Neelix. She kills one person to save two, basically. But the two were already dead. And I think it would have been, because if you look at the series, does Tuvok really evolve as a character? Does he have a character arc? I don't think he really does.
Not really.
Neelix. Sorry. Apparently, Siri decided to try to answer that question.
Alexis, wake up, Alexis.
Here's what I found out on the internet.
Here's what I found. In Neelix, likewise, I mean, Neelix does have some character development, but I think it would have been more interesting to see Tuvix deal with having these two completely separate personalities, lives integrated, and move forward for the next.
Can you imagine though if
5
they
seasons.
did that and you just like randomly missed that episode?
Oh my god!
But
Where
okay,
come from?
so I'm gonna make, like, just for the sake of discussion, I'm gonna make 2 points against that. 2 things that we would have lost if we did that.
Yes, having a baby. Okay, go ahead.
Which I don't whether these are worth an entire character, I don't know. But on when Neelix leaves Voyager to to live with his Talaxian family that he's found, right?
Mhm.
And the entire crew lines up to say goodbye to him.
Mm.
This like unsentimental little heart just like opened just a tiny bit, and I had an emotional reaction to that scene. And for that brief moment, I just thought that Neelix was just the loveliest person, and I was moved.
I was
That
mad.
one moment, you were mad
that
that they lined
moment.
up, that they lined
No.
up to say goodbye, or that he
I was
left?
mad that Neelix was staying behind. That Neelix, because we knew it was the final season, and I guess I assumed they were going to get home in the end, which they do. I was like, why is he leaving? He's been hearing about how great Earth is for all these years, and then he has this family, and like, did the actor want off the show? And I don't think that's what happened. I think they just wrote it that way. It didn't make any sense to me that he would want to live with his Talaxian family.
Well, I think it's that he had a desperate need to be needed, and that this crew, once they got home, which there was no indication in that moment that they were anywhere near getting home. That was the thing that didn't make
that's
sense.
true. Yeah,
is that but once they got home, they weren't going to need him in the same way. There were characters on that show who were not actually like built to, like Seven of Nine, we later learned, were not really built to survive or thrive outside of this tiny little ship, you know?
Right. The circumstance. Yeah. Okay.
The Tuvok moment that I would have missed is in the final episode of Star Trek Picard, where he makes Seven watch the Captain Shaw hologram note, and you see that and it is important. Somehow it's important that it's Tuvok. Somehow that connection between Seven and Tuvok is real and is there, and that's the only thing that I can come up with to support keeping him on Voyager for the last several years. Is maybe a little brutal, but
well, it would have been especially brutal for those two actors.
Yeah, like guess what? You're out. You're out. But also aesthetically, Tuvok more attractive than Tuvix. Like very odd looking alien Vulcan hybrid, like just awkward in a way. It was like, ooh, what's that thing called where something looks too human like? It goes off
Uncanny Valley. Wow, so Lanita doesn't like Tuvix because he's ugly.
Hot take.
It was an interesting. I mean,
I don't like ugly characters.
They have to be uber ugly, or you can't be like halfway ugly. Like Cardassians are not attractive. That herpes spoon on their forehead.
Herpes.
No, they're not attractive.
They're not there for pinup purposes.
No, but I did not like Cardassians. Like the neck thing, that whole trap. Like, I'm so happy, Damien, that you're not a person who's like super buff and have huge traps, because I couldn't look at you. It's too much. It's too much. It's like, how do you raise your arms? Like they get stuck. Anyway,
I didn't even know what that part of the body was called. But
you love that she made that about me somehow.
Because you're the
but I know what you're
person
talking about.
Like you literally are just like you're like, I don't do cardio, I just lift. Like
do you even lift, bro?
It's so true. Yeah.
Okay, another hot take.
Yeah.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, I don't know.
You got the longest list, and yours are the best so far.
I do have the longest list. Okay, I brought this one up in our text chain earlier, but so the poker game is important plot and character wise in TNG. We learn a lot in the poker games. The series ends with the poker game. The season 3 of Picard ends with the poker game.
I'm already leaning in for this one.
Why are they playing poker when they don't have any money?
Because poker is about winning, not about the money. You want to have the best hand and beat everybody else. Prove that you're the best bluffer / liar, and that you can read the room and manipulate the cards. Turn them down and say, I win.
So you think it's about, I mean, maybe I'm looking at this from a 21st century, living in a capitalist society, like whenever you hear that friends like, well, I won't name names, but when we were all working for the same company, there was someone who had a poker night.
Oh yeah, we were never invited. Were you invited?
We
I
were,
wasn't invited.
no, I was not
Poker
invited.
night.
What's that?
Off air. Off air, you have to say their names because who had
Oh
a
yeah,
poker
no, they had chips in their road box.
Yes.
They had a table. They had like a green
Oh.
felt surface. Like they were not fooling around. And
It was
actually,
a whole thing.
I maybe also was invited and maybe wasn't interested, but I don't remember which. But I didn't go.
Yeah,
But the
fair
thing
enough.
is, they played for money.
Yeah.
And I think that was the whole idea. You know what I mean? Like without the stakes, it didn't have any value. Bragging rights didn't matter. Like you had to have a little flesh in the game, as they say.
Mhm.
And so maybe we've evolved beyond that need, but it seems a little arbitrary. It's also my own. I don't really like card games in general, so I find them kind of tedious. Yeah, hot take. I don't like card games.
So then what do you like to do? Board
Um,
games?
I like board games. I like Cards Against Humanity type funny games. But, I mean that those are also cards. But you know, I'm
Wasn't
like
gonna
a
say it.
I don't know, like a Pictionary. I don't know, whatever. There's a whole thing about playing cards that I just don't get. Like, you know, like my mother-in-law, bless her heart, has like weekly card games with her like old lady friends.
What you
And
play,
I'm like,
Good Whist?
they
Spades?
play something
Bridge?
called, well, they play something called Bunko, and they play something
Oh.
called, which is not cards, I think.
But
they
Bunko
play
is like the
something
equivalent
called,
of like war, like Uno or not Uno, Go Fish.
They play something called 13s, I think. I don't know.
Bunko.
I don't know.
Dice game.
I thought maybe it was canasta or euchre. Sometimes they play euchre.
My mom is in a
Okay.
pinochle group. I think that's more
Pinochle.
complicated. Yeah.
Gin. There's a whole play
Love
about
gin.
gin. Anyway, I'm not really into cards, so maybe that's why I'm like, if there's no money and you're just looking at these stupid cards, I just don't get why they do it.
So
Yeah,
I feel
that's-
like people play games for arbitrary things like points all the time.
That's true. That's true.
Phase 10 is just for points. It's nothing else. But you want to crush your opponent. Like I'm telling you, like Spades isn't played for money. It's played so that you can destroy your opponent. The object of Spades is to set someone. Have you ever played Spades? You're all looking at me like
No,
I've played hearts.
Okay, so hearts, spades, same thing. Like you have a trump card, which is the spade, and there are two teams, 4 people, and you want to make sure you're watching what the card that is leading. So someone puts down a ace of hearts, right? That's the top winning card. Next person's going to put down a low heart, a low heart, a low heart, because you don't want to waste them. And then you're hoping that your partner has the king, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then if you don't have any hearts, you get to cut. And being able to cut someone who was counting on that book, like that king was, they're gonna win the hand and take the book, and you being able to put a spade down to cut them, there's no greater feeling. There's no greater feeling than someone with their partner saying, we have 7 books. And you say, we have 5. And you get to tell them, guess what? Today you don't have 7. So we're gonna minus these points off of this roll call. It's the greatest thing in the world. I mean,
I feel
get
like this is
poker-
like a case study of game night at the O'Donnell Jones house
Yeah.
versus the Ward Jones house. Like-
I just don't get it. I'm also just not a very competitive person. I think that's why I enjoy games that have storytelling elements, role-playing games, and games that involve like making people laugh, like actual competitive games. I'm just not into. It's the same thing with sports. I don't understand the appeal.
So
of
no,
sports.
no Monopoly? I mean, that's competitive. You're trying to buy up all the property.
No.
No life.
I don't
no
really.
Ferrari?
Oh God, I really hate the game of life.
You almost got that.
Winning at the game of
life.
life is dying in a cemetery. Like, come on. Like, there's no winning. Also, I always get stuck with like, oh, your house exploded again. Take away $1 million. I never
away a
win at the game
child.
of life. It's like the game of life is everything that's wrong with real life on paper.
It is.
That's
It
not
is.
fun.
my God, you guys, Mike is getting mad. I love this. Um, but back to Star Trek.
My bad. I take us off the rails.
I
No,
like
no, no,
trivia
no.
games.
No, I think that like if you were that Next Generation especially is set in a world where everybody is so noble
Yeah.
and honest and straightforward, so
Yes.
that poker gives them the opportunity to lie to one another. It's a game of bluffing. It is a game of guile, right? And that it and maybe it doesn't matter what the game is, but that it puts them in this kind of like, and actually one of my hot takes was going to be like, sometimes on like the lesser episodes of Next Generation, sometimes I'm just interested in the poker game. Sometimes and I'm kind of stealing this because we just talked about, I listened to John Hodgman
Yes.
on the Tawny Newsome and Paul F. Tompkins podcast. But talk about sometimes when less is happening on Next Generation, it's so nice. Like
Oh,
where you're like, we went to dinner at Riker's and he made omelets, but the eggs weren't so
they were
good.
gross, right?
The eggs weren't good. And thank God there was a red alert because we had
And
to
Worf
leave.
loved them.
Worf thought they were delicious.
That's
You
true.
know,
Some of my
sometimes-
favorite episodes are like Lower Decks or Data's Day.
Data's
Or-
Day, yes, where like
Oh,
Data goes for dance lessons, or like,
right.
oh, guess what? There's a string quartet playing in 10 forward, and someone fell asleep,
Right.
and
Beverly's directing a play, and like those are some of my favorite episodes. It's true.
yes. So
It is
yes,
the
and
poker.
actually the poker game that ended Picard,
Mhm.
I like where we I think we later learned that like the actors just sort of ad-libbed and played
Yeah.
like I could have watched another like hour and a half of
The thing, and also I think the thing about poker was that it was a time for them to come together like as family, right? Like
Mhm.
you worked all day, and even if it wasn't super competitive, like I want to win, it was a time to just commune with each other
Mhm.
after hours, to decompress about the day. Maybe no one's talking about work. No one's saying, we really did a good job on the nacelles, repatching them. Oh yeah, I made sure my backlift was extra sharp when I went into to battle today. It's just a time to recharge and say, so what are you having for dinner? Did you really like that? Yada 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 over there type of
The
deal.
version of that I love is in Strange New Worlds when Pike has everyone in his quarters and he cooks them dinner.
Correct.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that I like.
He's the successful version of what Riker tried to be with his bad omelets.
Yes.
Like a
Oh,
pretty face, not a cook.
right.
Pike, pretty faced and a
Stick to the
cook.
trombone.
Yes, and get better hair.
That hair. His hair is so good. I know Tim hates it, but it looks really good in this
It
most
looks
recent
great.
episode. Yeah. Mhm.
I just watched a little of season 2 of Discovery, and his hair is so different when we first see him. It's like a different color. It's really dark and short and slick.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
weird. Does anyone else have one, or am I just on a roll?
You're on a roll.
I
This
think
is
you're on a
fun.
roll. I'm enjoying these.
Okay.
Mhm.
You know what? I'm going to end with my list with this one. And I've said it before, and I got a couple
say it again.
fish eyes on the Zoom when I said it. My favorite series, or I'm going to say the best series
Oh,
right now,
I know what you're saying.
is Lower Decks.
Yes.
And I think it's because, first of all, we're focusing on the Lower Decks. So the A story of the series, of the episode, is not what's happening, like the captain's being taken over by a mask that's transforming the ship. You know what I mean? It's about the real people who are like just trying to like do their job. They're like, ugh, this console I need to work on is now a Mayan ruin. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'm much more interested in that like world than I am the actual drama of the plot of whatever's happening upstairs. I do think that it helps if you know all the other shows because there's a lot of references. It's a very referential
Mhm.
show, so things aren't funny if you haven't seen the originals. So I understand that it might not be the best.
you use your husband as like a placebo for these things.
That's
Tim
true, and
O'Donnell enjoys it and maybe doesn't get all the references. What?
that's true. He loves it and does not get all the references.
Right? This is
Yeah, I think it's I just love it. I love it, love it, love it.
see, she keeps making faces and not noises, so that when I make noises in response, I sound like I'm being crazy.
I can agree with that. I mean, yeah, yes, it's great because I think anything animated can sometimes be better than live action because you can animate your way out of someone's bad acting, right? Like
Sure.
you're dependent on a live actor to actually emote a certain way in their face or be able to do something physically that in an animated series you need Boimler to die and turn green. Okay, he turns green. Like you need, what's the one's name with the little eye, the eye patch?
Rutherford.
Rutherford,
Oh, the
right?
iPad.
Special eye, his little beady eye.
Yeah.
You need that device to malfunction and to show it. Okay, we can make some red sparks come out of it, right? Like
Sure.
you can do so much more with it. And I do like the fact, I agree with you. I do like the fact of seeing like the everyday ensigns, like, what are we doing today? Oh, I can be more efficient. And now I have nothing else to do. Like they're funny. Like they're so funny. It's a great cast. And I like that they're all so different and varied.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And we
Yeah,
know
I-
I'm a particular fan of Tawny Newsome, who will be joining us on this podcast at a later date to be determined.
You
later.
are manifesting that.
I'm manifesting it because I feel like she would like do really well with hot takes. She knows her Trek as well.
Oh,
as
yeah.
any of us do.
It's
but
also
yeah.
it's comfort food. It's in the way that I think TNG was. It I know that watching an episode is not going to give me anxiety. You know what I mean? And I don't always know that going into an episode of Picard, where you
It's
might be going
anxiety.
in for
Oh, yeah.
a roller coaster. You know what I
Lieutenant
mean?
Tavine,
Hmm?
anxiety. But with when Vadik is going to execute someone on the bridge and we don't know who it is. Oh my god!
Right.
I literally, I'm like, my heart rate is like shooting up as I'm talking about it. It was traumatizing.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, brilliant drama. Like, yes,
Yes.
we need all of the things. You know, there's
do.
I think that there's a space, there's a 25th century lane for legacy. Like that's where my like
Yes, there
heart
is.
and hunger is, right? Strange New Worlds is giving us this sort of episodic classic Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, it
And
really is. It really, really is in a very comforting but new way.
Yes.
It feels
Yes.
familiar, but it also feels very new and fresh.
But also actually, what sets me very ill at ease about that show is that we're becoming very attached to, I mean, look what they did to Hemmer. Spoiler, are you caught up, Mike? You know what happened to Hemmer?
Well, that was last season.
I'm fucking with you.
Yeah. I'm
but
like,
like-
what? I'm like, did he come back?
But that there's all the, but there are characters who we have never heard of before. We don't know what happens to Una. We don't
Right.
know. Una could have been written off with that court martial episode.
Exactly.
We don't know that. Ortegas, La'an.
Nobody's safe
Right. Like
No
we
one
don't
except
actually
Spock.
Spock, and we know exactly what happens to Pike, and that is like actually very
Right.
unsettling. So it's not as
It's coming.
it's not as warm and comfortable as we might be led to believe it is because it is a familiar. Like there's characters on there that are maybe not Mbenga. Like what happens to him?
There's many questions about his relationship with Noonien Singh.
La'an?
Yeah.
La'an.
I just have many questions. I know like they went through some things. There was that Alfred, what episode? See, I can't because they took some meds They did some fighting.
Oh yeah, that was on. Yeah,
That was Nurse Chapel, though, right?
that was Nurse Chapel.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So yes, I know it was no, but I'm just saying, like, there's things in the background of these folks that we haven't quite clawed at yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes me ill at ease to start to find out what it is. Because finding out that he had a daughter and a pattern buffer literally
Mm.
destroyed me.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Omega is carrying around a lot, and also, I mean,
A lot.
this is not a spoiler, but we learned that he's unhappy to be assigned to a mission for his fighting skills and not for his medical skills.
Mm.
Does not appreciate that assignment.
Just
Well, we're also seeing people. These characters just went through a war, right? So
Some
there's
of
some
them, yeah.
PTSD. Oh yeah, some
Yeah.
of them not. But
Yeah.
because the Enterprise was posted away during the war or something,
Right.
which is a choice. But
a choice, and a choice I don't agree with.
Not unlike the Enterprise E and the Dominion War.
yes, yeah. Where was the E? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rigel 7. Who knows?
Rigel 7.
The deep cut there from Lanita.
Oh my
I
God.
don't know all the names and facts. That's for you guys to know. It's just
It's so funny,
It's
like,
like Rigel 7.
it pops into my head sometimes. I'm like, oh, I do know something. No, I
You're
did.
fooling
So I
yourself.
Like it's a Lower Decks. Yeah, yes, it's Strange New Worlds. It's gonna take us on a roller coaster. Do we know how many seasons they're guaranteed for?
We don't.
No.
And everything's on hold because of a writer's strike.
Right.
Which it should be, because they need to be paid.
And guaranteed is relative. I thought we were going to get more Discovery
Prodigy.
and
Yeah.
more Prodigy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot take. I kind of the Prodigy. It's okay.
There's something for everyone.
There's something for everyone. It's just I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna finish it. But I was just
Well,
like, what's happening?
Well, here's a question for you as a mom.
Oh, yeah,
How
what's it?
how old would your kid have to be to watch that show? Because it's aimed at kids. At what and if you were to start him on Star Trek, what would you actually start him on? And how old would he be?
Mm.
Okay, so here's the thing for our listeners who are not seeing my many faces here. So this is a very like heavy layered question for me, right? So number one, we don't play with guns or anything that shoots in this house.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like there are no water guns, that like Nerf guns, like nothing. Guns are not toys. I don't mean to be like, but they're just not toys. So I know that phasers aren't guns. However, phasers do the same things that guns do, which is
Mhm.
gun and kill people. And I would like for the dictator to remain innocent of that as long as possible. As much as I love Star Trek and I want him to be a nerd and I want him to be all up in it, I probably won't let him watch it until he's older. Like he's 6 now, so maybe like 9 double digits, when we can fully have a conversation about, hey, these are phasers. The reason that they're being used is X, and like logically he can understand it, because right now it's like I can't have that conversation. Like his brain isn't formed enough to
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
for sure.
And all I need is from him, I got a phaser, pew pew. No. So it would have to, it's gonna be like a couple of years. 4 probably. Like
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like the cartoons would start, like I would totally do like Lower Decks, because it's funny and it's humorous and like it's full of color. Prodigy's weird, like there are too many aliens and it's not, I think I would want him to see more humanoids first before
Mm.
the Prodigy like sort of super alien of it all.
Right.
That makes sense.
And it probably makes no sense because literally he watches Bluey, who is a freaking Australian sheepdog, and
Sure.
her family, and Peel and Liza, who are avocados. I cannot stand them.
I don't even know
Liza,
what that is.
I don't
Oh,
know
I
what that
know.
is
Don't
either.
worry. It's okay. You Google it once we get off of this, and you'll be like, Peel and Liza, like their avocados, half of it still has the seed is Liza,
Oh, I've
and
seen that. I've seen that
cannot
image.
stand them. Like they are rude and they speak to each other in ways that I do not like what it does to him. Like you just have,
Mm,
it's like he's watching Daniel Tiger. So he's like watching
Right.
humanoids,
oh,
but
Daniel
they're
Tiger. Yeah.
really, really geared towards him. But he did start watching SpongeBob SquarePants. Somehow he found it on his pad. And I was like, that's not for kids. And I looked it up and it is.
It's for kids.
It
It's
is.
for 6 to 11. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, and I think you may forget that Lower Decks has some pretty raunchy moments too.
Yeah.
I
Like
know.
I-
I know.
I like
There's some
Badgie does some
nudity.
really the like
Oh,
spread
no.
eagle Boimler with the black box over his area. Like
Listen, I'd make sure that the episode could be watched, like, and then
Sure,
do the
sure,
little
sure,
cover the eye
sure.
situation. But yeah, like no, on the TV at home, like their Law and Order, as much as I love it, does not nothing gets watched or shoot 'em up killing, like because
Mhm.
even when I watch Grey's Anatomy, what happened to the lady? Why is she bleeding? Well, maybe she was hurt. They're gonna fix her. Like
You know, it's funny watching the Strange New Worlds. I don't know if it was the first episode of the second season or the second one, but anyway, the one where the doctor, where Mbenga and Chapel take the pills and they're suddenly they're super fighters.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yes.
why is there so much like fist fighty violence? Like, it just seems to be the go-to.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
Is-
There's some coming up that you're gonna
Yeah, it's just
it's a lot.
it. I mean, I know that.
Are
the
they
original
giving us like
series
classic
even-
Kirk? Is that what that's supposed
Yeah,
to be?
yeah. Like
Yeah.
they had a
Yes.
lot of fist fights. And the fight choreography is much better now than it was in the 60s.
Oh,
But
they used to have those moves where they would like they would do
oh
like,
yeah, and like
My
karate
favorite.
chops,
The two
and
That's my
fist chop.
favorite
I'm like,
move too.
I
Yes.
grew up in
Yeah.
martial arts. I never learned that move.
the jumping kick,
No, I don't
jumping
remember
kick
that
at
one.
the same time.
I want to
with
do
both
that so
feet.
bad. I want to do that so bad. Like that is, I truly think that one day I'm gonna be in a a nice fun flex where it's very soft and I won't break my tailbone when I land. But to be able to jump and double kick somebody in their chest, amazing.
Well,
Well-
if we got our shit together and went to the Queer Star Trek convention when it comes back, they
Yes.
do have, you can take Batleth lessons with
Uh-huh.
Gowron and Martok.
I would do it. I would do it.
Yeah, we need to figure
one-
this out.
It's one of the greatest
Guys,
lessons.
we're
ever created.
influencers now. I feel like we can we have Tawny
Pre-
Newsom booked on our show.
Oh
Press
my God,
passes.
you are so funny. You know what's so wild? You're insane. You know
You're
what's
in
so
your own
wild?
world.
You really are. The thing that I thought about just as we were talking, like, oh yeah, Mike Jones' hot takes are so much better. I think, honestly, one of the best aliens ever introduced, and maybe it's not a hot take, to the entire series of Star Trek from the beginning to end.
Hmm.
The Tribbles. They're the absolute best. They're
Wow.
my favorite.
How did you
little-
feel about the short track, about the Tribble origin story with H. John Benjamin?
Oh,
go
you
find
need
it.
to watch it.
You need to watch it. It's like
it's
10
great.
minutes. It's like
Yeah,
10
it's
minutes.
super
and it's
short.
dark. Because also you realize
It's funny
like,
but dark.
if you're like, and I can't like, it actually
called?
influences my, I don't know. It's short tracks. It's one of the short
Thank you.
It's like the trouble with John or something like that.
Yeah. And it's like the guy, he sort of invents the tribbles.
Okay.
And, but like
When
you
Tribbles
see
the
are
trouble with
control?
Edward.
right you see like what happens, like how a tribble infestation actually kills everyone on the ship, and it's horrifying
Kind of is.
because they
like being drowned in a
multiply
freaking
into
pool.
infinity and then you suffocate because there's no space on your ship.
Yeah.
It's and then they do that
she
to the
looks so
Klingons in
excited.
the episode, and then they all laugh about it at the end. Scotty's like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
beamed into the Klingon ship.
And that's one of the like forced laughter endings. It's like, oh, roll credits.
I know. I love them. I know that they are terrible, and they're like, based on rabbits and the way that they freaking procreate. I mean, that's why rabbits are such a nuisance, because they have like 12 12 babies per litter, and they can have a litter every, I don't know, it's something random like 90 days. It's like super short window. So like
Suddenly we're on a
Like,
rabbit fact podcast.
I
What's
do.
happening?
Wow.
the dictator. Hello, what part of my
Oh
world
my
is
God.
not
You
animal?
want a rabbit? I like that the tribbles keep coming back. Like the Voyager, the Discovery episode I was just watching. She just randomly walks by a tribble in the hallway. It's like, excuse me, like coming through tribble.
What?
Yeah,
On Discovery?
on Discovery. This is it was the first on the plane they had because I just got back from vacation. On Delta, they had like some Paramount Plus things, and it was the first 3 episodes of season 3 of Voyage of Discovery.
Oh.
They also still have 3 episodes of Prodigy, even though Prodigy's not anywhere right now because it's been taken down.
Really? The last time I looked, it was still there. Let's look.
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah, I text y'all that in the text chain, but nobody listened to me.
We're like, read the text chain.
Yeah.
Well,
talking.
I think we're running out of time at this
We're
point.
done.
Hot take.
Hot take. It's over.
Oh, and we forgot to share Ben's hot take that he prefers the season 1 and 2 uniforms that sent
Crap.
Patrick Stewart to the chiropractor.
Yes, Ben's hot take is that he prefers he uses some like historic
The
costuming
bib,
terms.
The naval bib.
Naval bib.
The naval
bib.
bib as opposed to the French collar. So what he means is he likes the season 1 and 2 TNG uniform, which is like the spandex jumpsuit, better than the 2-piece season 3 and on with the little collar. And it's all about the collar because he thinks that the rank is easier to see on in the first season costume, and it has that extra piping. But of course, the real
He
hot
wants to
take.
wear a onesie.
So next week's episode is going to be Ben with Patrick Stewart's chiropractor. They're going to have it out.
Because and as Mike Jones, the real hot take is it's because he likes necks. He didn't like the fact that they closed up.
A
You need to
décolletage
see
moment.
that delicate collarbone, being able to see the flex of Picard's neck when he got angry and when he was about to say something important. They covered it up.
What's that muscle you just said? The trap.
Oh, traps.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
yeah, it covers up those.
It covers it all. He didn't like it. He didn't like it at all.
That's amazing.
Can't wait for him to be like, that is not what I said.
I will say that the collars, the French collar is when you have a double chin, speaking for myself, it can get annoying, like
Get a
having
little
a collar
hinky.
that sticks up like
all
that.
the way up.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
a collar that lays flat, like, or no collar at all, like on a t-shirt or a navy bib.
Well,
Or
what's
whatever.
interesting, I like those collars. They're very, I think they're fancier. Like they seem more formal, more.
They do.
Like I don't think you can necessarily see them better on the other one, but I like that it's like just right there, like right at someone's jawline, how many pips you have. And
Yeah.
it's easy to see and spot. You don't have to go looking around for it. It's just right in your face.
Well, what do you think about the Voyager version where it's basically like a mock turtleneck with the pips on the turtleneck under the.
Wait, what is that? Let me see. What does that one look like again? Voyager?
The Voyager
Voyager-
uniform, it has this like grayish
Mm,
purple undershirt that's a mock
yeah.
turtleneck. Like it just
It seems
seems
hot.
it seems hot to me. Yeah, I think that I
It
would
seems
be
very
like,
hot.
ugh, what do I have to wear 2 layers all the time?
Yes. Yeah, but I didn't particularly care for the fact they're always pulling down on the jackets. Like I wish there was a way that like they could have been locked down. Because every time
Yeah.
somebody sat down, pull it down.
It rises up.
Everybody stood
That's
up,
the card
pull
move.
it down.
It's that gabardine fabric that doesn't give, and you can't, if you raise your arms, the whole
It
front
all goes up.
comes up. Yeah. But they did more wrinkles. Anyway. Sounds like we
Whenever
need
you
to have
feel like we're
another-
almost done talking, just check time remaining on your phone. That
Yes.
will tell you because we're not.
So apparently we're going to be having a multitude of episodes. We're going to talk about uniforms in each of
Yes.
the universes, which ones are better and worse, and which color
Yes.
works best for people's skin tone. Maybe they put the gray there because all the skin tones didn't work with all the colors that they were wearing.
Oh, that's
So
possible.
we need to have a cool base. Okay, see, we're delving in. Okay, Mike Jones. you can
Right,
end
it's like
Hot
save
take.
it, save it for next
Save
time.
it. The other episode that we're going to have is the watch list for people who've never watched Star Trek.
Yes.
Because we have friends who have listened to us out of obligation and don't understand what we're talking about.
Oh,
and
no,
and they
yeah, we
they
gotta-
want in.
We need to give them a list.
Yeah. So that's
Gateway.
another project.
Well, thank you all for listening and sticking with us through all of our ramblings and all of our hot takes.
We would no, we didn't even pretend to stay focused on this one.
Well, that would be so predictable.
So
Actually,
predictable.
not being focused is easily predictable for us. If you like what you've heard, make sure you give us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Hailing Freak Open or on hailingfrequenciesopen.com. Thank you, as always, for being with me here, Lenita and Damien. And dear listener, until next time, Hailing Frequencies closed.